Hello everyone, my name's Miia and I'm your self-proclaimed guide to expat life in Europe. I'm originally from Finland, but I've lived internationally for many years. I've spent several years in these countries and a period of time in these countries, but I don't count them as countries that I've lived in necessarily. In this video, I'd like to share 8 downsides of living in Ireland that I've found so far. But first, I'll give the floor to Disclaimer Girl.
The following 8 items are out of my own experiences. We're all different, we all have different preferences, everyone's different, and these things are subjective. I love Ireland so far, and the purpose of this is not to hate on Ireland, but there are good and bad things in everything and anything, and these are just some things that I found a bit challenging in this new life in Ireland.
Let's get to numero 1 of the downsides of living in Ireland. I'd like to get the obvious one out of the way first, and that is temperatures. But not in the way that you're thinking. When it comes to opinions about weather or temperature, this is highly subjective and it really depends on where you are coming from. I'm used to the winters where the sun barely gets through the thick layer of clouds in the sky. So for me, Ireland is actually pretty nice. Yes, it rains a lot and it's windy, but it's honestly not as bad as I thought. The outside weather is not really what I want to talk about here. For me, the biggest challenge is the temperature inside the house. When people hear that I'm from Finland, you know, they're like,
oh, so cold weather is not really a problem for you.
But there's something that people who haven't lived in the Nordic countries don't understand. And that is that we are never, hardly ever, cold inside the house. It was really shocking to me how cold it is inside and how badly the houses here, many of them, are insulated. Now, disclaimer, I haven't been able to go to that many houses because we've been in lockdown for most of the time here, but still, I'm freezing in our house all the time. So, when you think about moving to Ireland, not only worry or manage your expectations about the outside weather, but also be prepared to be cold inside the house, especially if you come from one of the Nordic countries or countries where you're used to really well insulated living. The following 2 items on my list are kind of old home problems, I believe. I've not been to a new home yet, but I'm suspecting that these issues won't be as prevalent in newer build homes. But that gets me to numero 2 of my personal cons list of life in Ireland, and that is the double tap situation. This is a bit of a strange item, perhaps. You know, these traditional taps where just warm water comes out of one and cold water comes out of the other. It looks nice, I get it, but it's super impractical and just simply annoying. You know, you're trying to do something, you always have to kind of find the right balance of warm and cold water, and usually it's not even like, oh, mildly warm and mildly cold, it's freezing cold or scorching hot. And yeah, which one do you pick when you want to wash your hands? Burn them or freeze them? Still battling with this one. Numero 3 of downsides of living in Ireland for me personally is the full carpet culture. The problem for me is I get easily allergic, and I feel like no matter how much I vacuum, it's just always dusty. Plus, I'm really nervous about spilling something or making it dirty. So, if you come from a country where having full floor carpeting is not a thing, be aware. In a lot of apartments in Ireland, the houses or apartments come with full floor carpeting. Numero 4. If you've done any amount of research into life in Ireland, or specifically life in Dublin, this next one will come as no surprise to you, and that is the high rental costs. There's a bit of a housing crisis in Dublin, which makes getting an apartment really competitive and expensive. I think
I cry a little bit on the inside every single month
when I have to pay rent because it's ridiculous. For a 1-bedroom apartment in Dublin or close by regions, you can be looking to pay at least 1,200 euros per month easily. I mean, even just studio apartments will go for that price and often more, depending on the area or how new and nice the apartment is. So to pay 1,400 or 1,500, 1,600 for just a studio apartment in the center of Dublin is not unheard of. What a lot of people do is they will rent out a big house or a big apartment and just rent out single rooms for people, and those you can get probably for around 700 to 900 euros per month for just a room, and then with a shared bathroom and kitchen. So that's a good option for if you are a single person or don't really mind sharing an apartment, and it's still possible to find those good deals, but it might just take a bit more time to really get the right thing for you. Numero 5. The next point has to do with the public transport system. I used to live in Vienna, Austria, which of course is known for its superb public transport system. If you don't know, in Vienna, to get a public transport card, you pay about 33 euros every month, and you'll get access to probably the world's best public transport system, in my humble opinion. But seriously, it is really good. Dublin, also really good, especially, you know, depending where you come from, you might think, oh, this is great. But for me, with the backdrop of Vienna life, I was a bit disappointed in the public transport system, I must say. And the main reason is not that it doesn't cover the ground well, because it really does. There's a lot of good routes and good schedules available. Now, I do have to say, in the evening, the especially trains and the routes going further out from the city end quite early, I think around 11:30 maybe, during weekdays. So that's really early to me. And so that might put a bit of a dent in your social life if you live further out from the city. The public transport card that most use is this Leap card. Again, I don't know if that focuses right now. You can get it from any kind of machine at the railway station or other places around the city. So it's easy to get your hands on one. If you're a student, you can get a bit of a discount, so that helps, but be mentally prepared to spend a bit more on public transport, especially if you come from a place like Vienna. Next point, numero 6. I have heard that getting car insurance is really expensive in Ireland, and we're kind of dipping our feet in this topic a bit more. Actually, just a few weeks ago, we were thinking about getting a car, and then or talking with a friend who was gonna sell his, and he just warned us that getting car insurance can be really expensive, especially in the first year. Anywhere from 1,000 and up is apparently not too uncommon, unfortunately. So that's a bit of a bummer, and definitely something to look into before making those car purchases. Now let's get to point 7. This one can be a bit of a hit or miss. Personally, us here, we've been really happy with our landlord, but we've also heard some horror stories of ones who were not quite up to par. Due to the housing crisis that I mentioned about in one of the earlier points, of course, having so much demand also means that landlords can be quite picky, and they may not have to be as attentive to your needs as the renter as in a situation where landlords really are just looking for people to move into their places. Of course, every landlord has specific things that they need to do and take care of, but still, I would recommend building a good relationship with your landlord and maybe just giving them a bit of slack when it comes to various demands and things that need to be fixed. With the way the housing market is right now, that might be your best way forward. And finally, numero 8 has to do also with the housing situation, but in a different way. What I'm talking about is the level of care in some of the utility services. Specifically, personally, we've had some bad experiences with the garbage collection here. And it got to a point where there had been so many mix-ups and just frustration that I thought,
Okay, we have to change the company. I'm not dealing with these guys anymore.
And after a bit of time on Google and reviews, I found out that pretty much all the other garbage collection services are about as bad as the one we have right now. So it didn't make sense to change it. There will be probably moments of frustration, misunderstandings, them not doing what they promised, and you having to send some strongly worded emails. But at the end of the day, it's better probably to stick with what you have, because it seems like a situation where all of them are pretty bad, and changing probably won't make it too much better. So is it worth the hassle? I don't know. I think possibly not, but it's up to you. Patience. Key word for this video. So, in conclusion, there are good and bad things about everything. There's no country or city that is absolutely perfect, and of course the same goes to Ireland. So far, I absolutely love living here, and even despite some of these challenges, some of them are bigger than others, but overall I wouldn't change anything. None of these things would make me not want to come to Ireland or not want to live in Ireland, because there are some very huge pros about living in Ireland, of which I'll share in my next video. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe so that more aspiring or current expats such as yourselves can find this channel and the content. And of course, if you have questions, feel free to comment below, and I'd love to hear what other kind of content you would find helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.